Okay, so myofascial lines, functional training and assessment video. So in the Tom Myers book, Anatomy Trains, ligaments are described as the inner bag, and it's the outside of them that are the fascia-based pathways. These pathways are webbed lines, or they're interconnected structures that distribute power and postural compensation. So myofascial lines, they create stability, resistance, flexibility, and elasticity. Today I'm going to talk about the superficial back line. The postural function of the superficial back line is to connect and support the posterior body, in full extension. It acts like a hard outer covering, for example, a turtle shell. It prevents curling up into flexion, such as being in the fetal position at birth. The superficial back line connects the posterior surface of the body from the bottom of the foot to the brow. So as you can see in this image here. So it's in two pieces. It actually, from toes to knees and then from knees to foot. It tends to shift the line upward, and it requires a higher number of slow twitch fibers. The overall movement function is to create extension and hyperextension, except at the knees and the ankles. Next, I'm going to show you an example of stretching out your superficial back line, and you can do this with a yoga pose, the downward facing dog, as well as a seated forward bend. Next is the superficial front line. It covers the anterior surface of the body from the top of the feet, the metatarsals, to the side of the skull. The overall postural function is to balance the superficial back line. So it's maintained by an easy and tension connections between the two lines. It requires a higher number of fast twitch fibers. The purpose is to protect the soft and sensitive areas of the frontal side, such as the face, ribs, and the pubis. Superficial front line tends to shift downward in consideration of the planes. The overall movement function is to create flexion of the trunk and hips, extension of the knees, and dorsiflexion of the foot. So a fun fact, if you're viewing a client from the lateral side, it reveals their state of balance between the SFL and the SBL. So if you're stretching out your superficial front line, you can do a yoga pose that's called Warrior One. And here's an illustration to show. Next is the lateral line. The lateral line balances the left and the right movements. The lateral line occurs on each side of the body, from the medial to the lateral midpoint of the foot around the outside of the ankle and at the lateral side of the leg and the thigh. It functions posturally to balance the front and the back, as well as bilaterally to balance the left and the right. It mediates force among other lines, and it stabilizes the trunk and legs to prevent buckling of the body during activities involving the arms. The movement functions in creating a lateral bend in the body are in the neck, the lateral flexion of the trunk, abduction at the hip, and eversion at the foot. So if you're stretching out your lateral line, you can do a side plank. That's an example right here. The spiral line posturally functions to maintain balance across all planes. Structurally, the spiral line connects as a double helix arrangement, and it connects the foot arches with the pelvic angle. It loops around the body in a double helix, and it joins each side of the skull across the upper back to the opposite shoulder, around the ribs to cross in front, level to the navel, to the same hip. The movements function to maintain, create, and compensate for the body, with the overall movement function of the spiral line is to create and mediate twists and spirals in the body, spinal rotations, and eccentric and isometric contractions to stabilize the trunk and legs, and to keep it from folding in a rotational collapse. So if you're stretching out your spiral line, you could do a medicine ball toss or a spinal line stretch, which is shown here. So the front and back functional lines are less involved in standing positions and work mostly during athletic activity. So they provide stability upward to fix the base of support. Here's an image showing the front and back functional lines. And so what's unique about the functional lines? Both the front and the back functional lines are utilized when performing an action such as bowling, javelin throw, or the baseball pitch. The front and back functional lines are less involved in standing positions and they work mostly during athletic activity. So they provide stability upward to fix the base of support. There's my references. Thanks for watching.